Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Through the fadl and the karam of Allah, we have had the opportunity to take a brief look at the lives of 28 Hanafi ulama during the course of this Ahnaaf series, together with an introduction and a closing audio, bringing it to a total of 30 audios over 30 days. فَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدُ وَالْمِنَّةِ. These audios have barely scratched the surface of the greatness of just these ulama alone, let alone cover the Hanafis throughout the ages. One thing which is clear from the series is that since the inception of the Hanafi Madhab, it has been the largest Madhab with the biggest influence over the entire Muslim world. Over 1,300 years have passed since the Hanafi Madhab was founded, and it remains the most widely followed Madhab up until this very day. From the series too, a person can see that regardless of what science of the deen it is, you will find a Hanafi there. If you speak of Aqidah, then you have a Hanafi like Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah. If you speak of Hadith, then you have the likes of Imam Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah rahimahullah. If you speak of al-Jarh wa Ta'adil, then you have Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in rahimahullah. If you speak of Usul, then you have Imam al-Sarakhsi rahimahullah. If you speak of Tafsir, then you have Imam al-Samarqandi rahimahullah. And if you speak of Jihad, then you have Imam Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak rahimahullah. And these are but a few from the galaxy of Hanafi ulama. And likewise, any science you can think of, you will find the Hanafi Madhab playing a big role in it, if not being amongst its very founders. There are not thousands or even tens of thousands of Hanafi ulama that this world has seen over the years. Rather, they number in the millions. So it would literally be impossible to list each and every single one. But a person doesn't need to do all that to sufficiently prove the point that a madhab, following a madhab, is the way to go. A madhab is not just for laymen, it's for ulama too. As one can clearly see, these are all big named ulama that are accepted by the entire ummah, yet they all followed a madhab. Why is that? The Ummah is facing an onslaught of misinformation today by Salafis against the very beliefs of what Islam stands upon, with claims being made that you as a layman should not follow a madhab, or if you've read a few translations of ahadith on the internet, then suddenly you are entitled to make ijtihad and that you should derive the laws from the Quran and Sunnah yourself based on an English translation. Now this is a challenge that I have given to Salafis for over a decade now, and to date, no one has been able to take up the challenge. I always ask them to quote me one Imam since the time when the Madhahib were formulated until just before the emergence of the Salafis now the other day. Just to name one Imam of the deen that did not follow a Madhab. Now, if following a madhab was not the way to do things, then it should really not be that difficult of a task to be able to quote merely one imam that did not follow a madhab. You can think of any imam that comes to mind, and you'll find that he followed a madhab. If you think of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani rahimahullah, he was a Hanbali. If you think of Imam Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he was a Shafi'i. Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, he too was from the Hanbali madhab. Now, amongst many other ulama, some of them were mujtahideen within their respective madhahib, but they all followed a madhab nonetheless. So when you follow a madhab, then you can truly say that you are following the Quran and the Sunnah as well as following the Salaf. While if you do not follow a madhab, then who exactly can you claim to be following? When you look at the lives of the A'imah covered in this series, you'll find that they were students of some ulama and teachers of others. And in this way, from generation to generation, this deen has been preserved without any adulterations, with each Imam passing over the correct understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah to his students, and they to their students, and so on and so forth. While if you stop for a moment and compare it with what the Salafis call towards, then you will find every Salafi giving his own personal interpretation of things and passing it off as being Quran and Sunnah. While in reality, it is nothing more than his latter-day interpretation of what he thinks the Quran and Sunnah says. Now people may think that it's only a madhab. Why make such a big deal about it? The reality is that it's not just a madhab. These madhahib are the foundation of the deen itself. So when you try and build without a foundation, then you are doomed to fail. And this is why corruptions are appearing at such an alarming rate in the world. Because when a person becomes untethered from the chain of ilm, which links a person back to the A'imma rahimahullah, to the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, and thus back to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then where are you standing? Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah used to say, if you don't have knowledge, then someone could bring you dirt and you will believe it to be gold. And this is basically what the Salafis are doing. They are throwing the golden madhahib away and coming forward with dirt. And because they give some people a degree of self-importance, because they now feel that they are actually following the right track based on knowledge, therefore you find that some people take easily to Salafism as opposed to following the established rulings of the deen. The purpose of us having gone through the biographies of these Hanafi A'imma was multifold. Firstly, it was to give us awareness of who these A'imma were. Secondly, it helps us understand the depth of their knowledge. And thirdly, it acts as a guide for us to follow, to try and imitate their goodness and the path that they traversed. This was not some fairy tales being discussed. Rather, it was the real life efforts of centuries of ulama who strove their entire lives through so that today the deen could have reached us. So may Allah grant us the understanding and guide us to the straight path, the path that the Ummah was upon since the beginning of Islam, and not the newfangled ways of going down gullies of misguidance. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen, wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.